What's up, guys? I'm back in my car once again, and today we're going to be talking about what makes certain types compatible. All right, compatibility between the 16 types, because once again, I've been all over Instagram seeing like posts and shit about are ISFPs and ENFJs compatible, or like are INFPs and ISTJs compatible, stuff like that. And the long and short of it is, I hear a lot of people say that like every match between two different types could feasibly work if they're both mature enough and there's enough communication. This is wrong. This is undisputably incorrect. And the reason why it's incorrect is because of these little things called perception functions. So perception functions are the introverted and extroverted variants of intuition and sensing. So SE, SI, NI, NE. All right. Perception functions are the functions that types use to perceive the world. Okay. It's a circular definition, but that's kind of what they do. Extroverted sensors are all about seeing what other people are doing. SI users are all about what they're doing. NI users are all about what they want, and NE users are all about what other people want, right? So these are all functions that are used to basically hone a grasp on the external world around you. All right. So why is compatibility not universal? Why cannot all types date other types or like be with other types? It's because of these. Okay. So the reason being is these functions are somewhat core to how a person acts. They are somewhat core to like how this person perceives the world and like what they value in their world. Okay. So like the best way to talk about that is like with, for example, SE and SI. Okay. SI, all about like what you're doing, your attention span, your ability to endure certain obstacles in your life, right? SE is naturally attracted to SI because SE is all about giving someone a good experience. It's about being memorable. It's about grasping other people's attention. Okay. And so an SE user is not going to be attracted to another SE/NI user. Okay. The reason being is like, a good example would be like, the SE, like an ESTP would go up to like an INFJ and would like try to give them a good experience. All right. They would like try to like give them an experience just in general, try to be memorable to them. However, the NI user, like an INFJ, like they don't have any attention to give anybody. Okay. It's not in their function stack. It's not what it's not what they do. So the SE user is not going to like leave a lasting impression on that INFJ, and it's not going to lead to the INFJ like being comfortable around the ESTP, because like that's what it comes down to. The SE user is trying to make the SI user comfortable, right? And it's the same thing with like an NE user trying to go up to another NE user, like an ENFP going up to like an ISFJ. They might have emotional compatibility. However, the ENFP is going to be trying to give the ISFJ what the ISFJ wants. But the ISFJ has no freaking idea what they want. They're actively like, they actively look down upon what they want. They focus on what they need, right? And so that's ultimately the crux of this issue. NE users cannot give another NE user what the NE user wants to give them, okay? And an SE user cannot give another SE user what they want to give them, okay? You have to have cognitive synchronicity between the two types, at least with perception functions, okay? when we're talking about judging functions, FE, FI, TE, TI, these functions are core to the person as well. They also help shape the worldview and the personality of the person. However, things like your morality, your internal morality, FI, ethics or awareness of other people's morality, FE, like knowledge or like logic and like TI, or like rationale, reason, and status for TE. These things, while they don't necessarily overlap, through communication and through maturity and emotional like vulnerability, types that have similar judgment functions, but perception functions that resonate, those types can still last. Like those matches can still work, like an ENFP and an INTJ, or like an ESTP and an ISFJ. Those are called the pedagogue relationships, and they're harder to pull off compared to a like ESTP and an ISTJ or ESTJ, right? They're harder to pull off. However, the emotional compatibility, even if it's not there, it can still be worked through, and it can still be forged, and there can still be a relationship there, even if the types don't have complete cognitive synchronicity. However, like I said earlier, like an ESFJ and like an INFP, that would never work. It would never work in the long term, because the ESFJ is like very responsible with, you know, their comfort, like their endurance, like their attention. The INFP has no way of like getting to that ESFJ's SI or its NE. They have no way of overlapping, right? And so even though they have emotional compatibility, they would not have perceptual compatibility. And so ultimately, if those types got into a relationship, they simply would not be able to match each other's needs, and the relationship would ultimately fall apart. But like I said earlier, compare this with like an ESFJ and an ISTP, right? Which is a pedagogue relationship. The ISTP has a way of making the ESFJ comfortable, right? And the ESFJ has a way of giving the ISTP what they want. So even though there might be some conflicts between, like, you know, the TI hero of the ISTP clashing with the TI inferior of the ESFJ, ultimately the relationship can still work. It's going to be harder than like an ISTP and an ESTJ, like I said earlier, but at the end of the day, they can still function. And it's because of that perceptual compatibility. Perceptual compatibility is key when deciding if you are compatible with someone or not. Okay? So if you see anyone like talking about like an INTJ and an INFJ being in a relationship, they don't know what they're talking about. That relationship would never work in the long term. It might work for a week before the two realize that they're just not meant to be together. And that is ultimately the crux of what I'm trying to say here. Like, certain types are meant to be with other certain types, okay? Some types are not meant to be with other types. It's because they are too similar in the ways that matter. They don't have cognitive synchronicity. And that is very, very important when deciding if a type is compatible with another type. But perceptual compatibility is infinitely more important than judgmental compatibility. Judgmental compatibility can be overcome with communication. A lack of judgmental compatibility, can be overcome with communication. A lack of perceptual compatibility will not be overcome, regardless of how mature or how well developed the two types are. All right? So that's the lesson. The lesson is that, okay? So, go into the world, understand what your type is, all right? And look for types that will have perceptual compatibility with you. Emotional compatibility is important too. judgmental compatibility. I say emotional. Judgmental compatibility is important too, but perceptual compatibility is where the actual crux of the relationship can form. All right. I hope that was helpful. Another MBTI video. I don't know. I wanted to talk about this. I've been seeing a ton of posts on Instagram about that, and it's just it's kind of triggering me, honestly, because it's like people are just getting straight up misinformed about how types can function in the real world, whenever in actuality an INTP is never going to go for an ISFP, and an ISFP is never going to be interested in an INTJ. It's just how it is. So anyways, like, I hope all this was helpful. I hope you guys were able to learn something from this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Another video talking in my car. But yeah, until next time, I guess.